All right, welcome everybody. Welcome Plato community. I'm Janice Little, SVP of Engineering at SheerID, an identity marketing platform. And I'm excited to moderate this discussion on building a great relationship between engineering and product. With me today is Venu Kalluri, VP of Engineering at Dolby Laboratories, and Daphra Holder, Product Lead for Marketplace and Commerce at Facebook. Welcome to our panel.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Hi, everyone.
Welcome. Venu, could you just kick it off by telling us a little bit about your background?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Venu Kalluri. I lead the engineering team for Interactivity API platform at Dolby. The API platform enables developers to easily integrate interactive communications into their apps, such as the one that we are using today. In addition, Dolby I/O platform also supports media analysis and enhancement APIs, which enable developers to create high-quality audio content. In my previous roles, in addition to leading software teams, I also led development of conferencing hardware products, such as audio and video conferencing systems, and have experience working with industrial design, hardware, and operations teams as well. Well, thanks to Plato for providing me this opportunity, and I also look forward to learning from Daphra and Janice, who have great experience on this subject.
Thanks, Venu. And over to you, Daphra.
Yeah, thank you so much, Janice, and the Elevate Spring Summit attendees. I'm really excited to be here and share some of my expertise with all of you. By way of introduction, I'm Daphra Holder, and I am a PM lead at Facebook. I specifically work on marketplace and commerce, leading our initiative to really bring commerce to life on Facebook overall. I've led initiatives across our C2C ecosystem, bringing and introducing shipping and e-commerce to Facebook, as well as working on things to elevate the experience of sellers on our platform. So building out a suite of tools to help them to be successful. Before Facebook, I actually spent 5 years at Amazon, did everything from working on hardware with the Alexa product and taking that international to physical retail, working on Amazon Campus, which was Amazon's first foray into physical retail on college campuses, and then actually working within our consumer electronics vertical. The bulk of my career has really been within consumer tech, and I'm really excited to be here today, Janice.
Welcome. Yeah, there's so much innovation on this panel. It's just really, really great to have you both here. So I'm just going to tee it off with a couple of questions, and then we'll move into Q&A. So everybody, please, community, please feel free to add or upvote questions over in the Q&A tab. So the first question, as technology leaders, we're all just constantly trying to build, this great successful product really efficiently. And, a great relationship with engineering and product, allows you to sort of maximize your, and leverage the talent you have on both teams. So, Daphra, let's start with you. What's the foundation of creating a great relationship between engineering and product?
Yeah, I would say that, outside of my relationship with my family, I think the second most important relationship in my life is with my engineering director, engineering manager. I really have to cultivate this relationship because so much of the team's success is predicated on this relationship. We have to discuss things like, product and product strategy, making sure that in our relationship, we're cultivating a healthy team. And also ensuring that the decisions that we're making are really driving the team towards achieving a roadmap. And so in many ways, I'd say that, you use the word foundational. I think that there is so much symbiosis that you need to have between product management and also engineering management as well. I also think that there are a couple of things that you have to nail in that relationship, or at least that in my experience seem to be true. So one, I think, would be a mutual sense of accountability. And that goes all the way from the tactical, the decisions that you're making day to day for the team, to the strategic, where are we going? What is the collective North Star? I think the second thing that I'd call out is just having a sense of shared leadership. And that's really making sure that, we're both owning the decisions that we're making for the product. And that we're also, showing up as leaders for the broader XFN team as well. And then the third thing that I'd say is really important is that so much of the product and engineering relationship is really ensuring that you're unblocking the team, you're removing inefficiencies in the process, and you're carrying, the entire XFN team along. And then the last thing that I'd add is that something that I personally have had to get really comfortable with as a PM is ensuring that, there are moments where, engineering is not just building, but they're also leaning into really specific parts of the product. And the way that I would characterize that is that, they have like a significant amount of product sense. And so being willing to allow engineering to sometimes flex into that role is also really important. So there's a certain degree of fungibility that I think, especially as product managers, you need to allow the engineering team to have as well.
That's great. Venu, any reflections there, or how about you?
Now, Daphra touched on a lot of key elements. That's the foundation for a good relationship between engineering and product. I feel that these two functions are really critical in any product development organization, and so it's kind of natural to have a creative tension between these two functions, because product kind of focuses on the what and why, while engineering focuses on the how. So it's important to kind of challenge each other and ensure that both teams are kind of pushing the envelope and trying to find a creative solution. So while the tension's there, it's possible to maintain a good relationship between these two teams. I felt like Daphra was talking about, first and foremost, is having like a shared vision and having objectives mapped to like OKRs and priorities on the roadmap is important. Also, like Daphra said, like a clear understanding of roles and responsibilities. It's important that we mutually discuss this between engineering and product management on what our expectations of each other are on an ongoing basis, and not be afraid to hold each other accountable. One other factor I've felt is important between the teams is trust. I know this is something that doesn't come day one, but it's built over time with positive results. But you see that the teams that have some wins on the board and have established the trust, things become much more smooth and easy and faster for these teams to work on. And both for product and engineering teams, providing context to the teams, I feel is really important. Having context empowers teams. Product can provide context on the vision, customer feedback, and competitive landscape. And engineering can do the same on technology roadmap, enhancements, and capabilities. I think this is another key thing. And when priorities shift, as it happens very often, it's very important to explain to the team why we are changing tracks and what key metrics we're going to use to measure that we are on track and that we are making progress. It's important for the team to know that, even with this change, it's a forward path that we are taking. It may be a slightly zigzag path instead of a straight line, but it's not like constant churn, right? And that kind of helps with the morale of the team. Yeah, those are the thoughts I had.
Those are great. I always thought the foundation was maybe like whiskey or something. So I'm glad you guys are really good to know that it turns out it's relationships and communication and shared vision. Those are really great points. Yeah, one of the quotes I always love is, it was interesting, Daphra, that you said it's like, next to family. I love the quote. It's okay to put your heart into your work and those with whom you work. And so I love that you have that closeness. That's really great. Okay, so now let's flip the coin. There can be, Venu, you mentioned there's this natural and healthy tension between product, right? Who dreams big, on behalf of the customer, and engineering that has to just make those dreams a reality. So maybe Venu, let's start with you. What are some common areas where you see tension between engineering and product?
The one thing that comes to top of mind is, with any driven product management team, right? We always want more capabilities faster than the engineering team can deliver. So asks are always greater than the resources. So, this can lead to kind of frequent priority changes and context switch for the dev teams. So weighing this carefully and making sure that there are times you got to do this and it's the right thing to do. And there are other times where it may be better to wait a little bit and wrap up the projects that are already in flight and starting something new. So that the morale of the team is taken into consideration. So that's one aspect. The other challenge that we face is prioritization between new features and technical debt. Any teams that have worked long enough have accumulated some technical debt, and it makes it difficult for the teams to implement new features at a fast pace because of the underlying issues that may be on the platform. We call it the refactor dilemma internally. Whenever we have a product lead that literally breaks into a cold sweat when he hears the word refactor. And it is sometimes essential to do these things, but it's important that we collectively discuss the trade-offs between the product and engineering team. Another area of tension that comes to mind is really when you're hit with unexpected delays in committed schedules. And this is common, and different teams have different ways to deal with it. But it's another area that engineering and product can work closely together, figure out how to revisit the product MVP, discuss trade-offs, impacts, and do it collectively.
That's great. And Daphra, have you seen something similar?
Yeah, I know. I think Venu touched on some really interesting points. I mentioned earlier that one of the things that is foundational to good relationship between product and is team health. And I think in line with that, it's also just building resilience in a team so that you can really mitigate these tensions as they come along. And I've seen tensions in a lot of different forms. Just thinking about last year, being in the middle of a pandemic, so many roadmaps were sort of turned upside down. And so it's not just the day in, day out, iterating quickly. It's also just literally being able to handle things like that. And so whether it's misalignment on roadmap or timelines, and really having to figure that out, within product and engineering, or doing the reprioritization exercises that Venu mentioned, I think it's really important that part of disambiguating that tension and really, getting through it really quickly is making sure that the team has a clear understanding of, directionally, where are we going? What are the broader goals? What is the strategy that all of this work ladders up to? What are the trade-offs that we're making? I think that is absolutely critical. One thing that I often do as a product manager for engineers on my team is just simply asking them, what is the North Star of the team? What is the strategy? How does this work that you're doing day to day connect to that? And it's really important that, you get an answer that, is very, is very clarifying. Because if the engineering team doesn't know why they're doing the work, then, it's sort of not for naught. And then the last thing I'll say is Venu also mentioned something really quickly that I do think I want to underscore, and that's connecting the work to metrics, making sure that it's connected to the broader goals of the org as well. So much of these really small things really help the team to work through tensions on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, that's wonderful. It's great to see we've kind of laid the foundation and looked at what are some of these gotchas, if they're speed, how we measure, how we prioritize, and the miscommunications, and how we handle those. So my next question is just, it would be great for the audience to sort of see what are some examples? We've, even the best laid plans, sometimes go awry, and what's an example of some, where you've seen something not working between engineering and prod, and how did you resolve that?
I can start. I think there's sort of two generic examples that I'll sort of give that I often see, or at least have been, consistent in a lot of the teams I've been a part of. I think one is that reprioritization of the roadmap. I've definitely had situations, in fact, as recent as the last half, where we've gone through a quarter of doing work. We have a very clear plan for the half, and then suddenly the roadmap gets turned upside down. And that could be because of new data or new research, and really having to figure out how to work through that can be incredibly difficult. Again, if the work is grounded in a clear strategy, if it's very clear to the team what the P0s are, I think it is easy to really work through those. But I do think that reprioritization exercises are really a common experience that the team sometimes goes through, where you sort of see this tension emerge. And then I think the other situation that I often see is around sizing and scoping. And that's usually at the point of like planning for the half or planning for the year, where, product might have one, understanding of, how, big a project is or how long it will take. And I really do think oftentimes I have to lean into engineering for their expertise on that. And it can be a little bit humbling because you want to move fast, you want to build the most incredible things. But again, the work needs to be grounded in reality for the team to truly have success.
How about you, Venu?
Yeah, I think Daphra touched on the reprioritization part, and yeah, that's another example that comes to mind. In early days of our platform, when we launched our platform, the Dolby IO interactivity platform, we got good customer adoption, but we also started seeing feature requests that were unique for some of the customers, right? So these unique requests were for targeted use cases, and we were looking at how does this accrue to all the customers on the platform. So it was, needless to say, it was challenging for the team to focus on all the asks that are coming in while working on scaling the platforms and adding the features that are already on the roadmap. So we had to, at some point, pause and kind of go back to the drawing board and say, let's have the difficult discussion of, what are our goals, what are our focus, what is our vision and mission statement, and realign on the priorities, and then come back to what are we going to do, and more importantly, what are we not going to do going forward. Anyway, those are some of the reprioritization challenges that we face on a periodic basis that can be collectively addressed with the teams working together.
I'm sure a lot of the audience can identify with both those examples, so thank you for sharing. Okay, shall we just dive into some audience questions here? The top one is from Matthew. It says, we are a product prioritized team. How do you recommend balancing product versus engineering initiatives with product? You guys, either one of you could go, or feel free to bounce it back and forth.
Actually, I actually had a situation maybe a year ago that really sort of like pulled me back from just being so product forward and recognizing the importance of things like tech debt and accruing that. Things like quality, which, these are not sexy things. When you think about product, these aren't things that necessarily are customer facing or necessarily, have very, obvious like UX, UI implications, but they actually are critical for a product and make a product run well. So one of the things that I've actually just instituted as a PM is making sure that our roadmap every single half has some sort of quality component. And so, recognizing and helping to evangelize within the team that, how performant, how reliable, how much time we're spending on quality, and also driving down tech debt, to your point, Venu, really does impact the experience that customers have. And so I think, one of the things that I would definitely encourage everyone who's here to do is like, ask yourself that question, are you just building, features, or are you also thinking about how those features run and how the product scales by focusing on the things that, are often on the back end as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've definitely made the case at times, like, we got to slow down to go fast, What about you, Venu?
Yeah, I think those are all good points that Daphra made. The only thing I would add is maybe in this particular case, if the focus tends to be on product more than engineering, they could start looking at building proof of concepts, early stage POCs and stuff to demonstrate to what level you can get to with the engineering engineering expertise that you already have. Then that helps the teams kind of identify where they need to invest to get to the next level. So
that's a great point. Yeah, 100%. Okay, the next question we have is from Renee. How do you create alignment prioritization between, oops, it moved. How do you create alignment prioritization between engineering quality metrics and product's goal of shipping features?
So I think that might be somewhat similar to the former question, but I can actually go a little bit deeper on the response I gave before. When we're doing planning, I've actually been on teams where we've allocated a chunk of the roadmap to engineering and to quality. So that's just been, one case where it's been very, very tactical and super specific in terms of how the team itself thinks about goals. And then the second thing I'd say is, depending on the type of org that you're in, maybe it's like very goal-centric or strategy-centric or OKR-centric, really asking yourself the question of whether or not the engineering quote unquote work, does that help move you in the right direction of the goal? And so, if it does, then, the team should be spending as much time thinking about those things as well as the quote unquote product work.
How about you, Venu? Are there certain metrics you look at to say, okay, this is a red flag to show that we have to, we have to pivot here, or that we should be investing more in quality?
Yeah. So I think it's early on, it's important to kind of outline what are the goals for the project and what are the key metrics that you're going to track. And it's helpful for the engineering teams in particular to plan for those, right? If you change track midway, it becomes difficult for them to go back and adjust what they're doing. So, understanding early on to the extent that we can, and quantifying what quality metrics that you're looking for in the project is important. And that doesn't mean it's set in stone and you can achieve it, but at least it gives a good chance for the team to understand what the goals are and how they're going to plan to address those. And as you go through the project, you, like I was saying before, where there is the ability to create proof of concepts and deploy and test things, that's another chance where you can evaluate the quality and give feedback to the teams on how they can improve in those areas, and which are the ones that you would prioritize. Like going into the project, you may have a certain view on these quality metrics are the top priority, but as you evaluate the product, you realize that those are good enough. There's a new area that has emerged that's more important for the team to track. So doing like continuous deployment or proof of concepts and stuff and evaluating quality at each stage will help you understand where the priorities need to go forward.
That makes sense. So I love this question. How can product give the best visibility to engineering on the voice of the customer? Are there any strategies that you've used there?
Daphra, you want to go first?
Yeah, no, there are a couple of things. I'll actually just give like live examples. I think one, ideally there's someone from research that's on the team who can really, be that person, physically on the team. But I know that, not all teams necessarily invest in research. And so sometimes this product, you really have to do that. I obviously, spend a lot of time dog fooding, which I think helps with building empathy, but to the extent that you can actually get proximate to the customer and bring that feedback to life, whether it's qualitative or quantitative, that's really helpful. The actual example that I'll give is that when I was building shipping, we were so excited and I think prioritizing, getting the MVP out, that I do think there were so many more opportunities for us to understand, how it was truly touching customers and specifically sellers. And what we learned is that there had been these organic Facebook groups external groups that had popped up where sellers were essentially commenting and really giving feedback about the product. It essentially were these like micro seller communities, and so I actually just joined them, and I sort of just listened as a voice on the wall, and I would bring back quotes to the team, just pairing what we were seeing and hearing, frustrations, pain points, good, bad, ugly, with the tactical everyday of trying to get to this MVP out. So I'd say that to the extent that you can actually bring that sort of those real life scenarios to the team, the more helpful it is, really grounding the work in reality, quite frankly.
Yeah. And in our case, I think we also look for opportunities where engineers could join product on discussions with customers, getting feedback. There's obviously the quantitative stuff that we get off of the platform, but the qualitative input that we get from customers is usually something you get from interviews and meetings and discussions. So our product lead is really good at pulling in the right engineering folks and in these discussions and engaging them early on. And we're also trying something as a suggestion from one of our key leads was, get the broader team visibility into what's going on from a customer standpoint in terms of the customer issues that we are facing on the platform. So his idea was like, be support for a week, and you monitor everything, not just your area, but everything on the platform, and get a closer understanding of what are the customer issues that are out there, and who in the organization would be addressing those issues. So trying to build a holistic view of the product for everyone in the team.
Yeah, I actually want to just plus one to two things that Venu said. Like, one is the support. Just reading tickets alone, just getting a random set of tickets, if there is some support element to your product, is very, very eye-opening. And I think the second thing is product being a champion of usability, which Venu also said. One of the things that I always do with the engineering team is I actually just simply remind people of when usability is taking place. And I ensure that the team actually just gets invited to those sessions. And it's up to people if they want to join, but really just championing, that as a good use of time is a really tactical thing that I encourage within my team.
Yeah, that's great. I've seen more and more companies move towards even an onboarding program that's like just very high exposure to the customer that I've seen be effective. And one of my very first managers, was like, all the engineers are rotating through customer calls, and that was a good experience. And then so we're running short on time here, so maybe one last question. And I love this question because it's I think the flip side of the one we just asked. How do you help product folks that have a business background or no or little tech background to interface with engineering?
Yeah, I guess I'll start with that one as a resident product person on this in this meeting. But I think it's just genuinely like building that relationship. And I know it sounds so basic as an answer, but just making sure that product is proximate to how long things take to build. When asks are coming in, like really breaking it down for your product manager. And some product managers want to lean into the engineering work. I personally sort of fall into that camp. But for those that don't, just really, making sure that you're spending time with them so that they understand, what it takes to bring something to life, that it's not just, a milestone, but, what's really underneath the hood as well. Venu, I'm curious what tactics you've taken in situations like this.
Yeah, I think what we've done in addition to what you described is sort of set up internal demos of technology and proof points of ideas and other stuff. So rather than describe it on paper, kind of set up demos for people to visualize, for product managers to visualize, and then have a constructive discussion on where we could take these ideas and build on it and how to take it to the next level. So for folks most of the folks are visual and or auditory, and they want to experience these things, and it resonates with them strongly when they do that versus seeing it on a PowerPoint or something like that.
That's really great. Yeah, maybe I'll do some product pairing after this discussion. That sounds like fun. So yeah, that should wrap it up for us. This has been so fun being here with you guys. A big thank you to Plato for bringing us all together. A big thank you to the panel for just sharing your wisdom on how to build a great relationship between engineering and product. I wish you all just a wonderful rest of your day, and thank you, Venu and Daphra.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you.